welcome to MBCSN News. I'm Melanie Tessier.
And I'm Nelson Rive. Today we're going to take a closer look on some of the most controversial events occurring in the Middle East. We have a report coming up from Saudi Arabia where women are not allowed to drive a vehicle. How crazy is that? And there's an ongoing protest in the capital city as we speak where women have taken the streets aiming to change that one rule.
The protesters are all women. They're getting in cars and driving around the streets as a form of civil disobedience to show that they should be permitted to drive legally. The protest, which features dozens of women taking cars out for a spin and sharing videos or images of their civil rebellion on social media, didn't get women the right to get behind the wheel.
We have to take into account that there are municipal elections slated for next year. Saudi women will get the chance to vote and run for office for the very first time. Although many believe that won't have much effect on the government, it's a big step for women that live in Saudi Arabia, so good for them.
I agree. Now we'll move on to the weather report with Brittany Nunez with a comprehensive coverage for the upcoming weekend. Hello, Brittany. Is it going to rain or not?
Thank you, guys. Sadly, Melanie, we won't be needing this. The temperature all around the Middle East this weekend is going to keep on rising. In most of the countries, the numbers are between 85 degrees and all the way up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. In Jordan, for instance, we have hit a record high of 98 today. In Iraq, it is completely sunny in the cities like Basra and the capital Baghdad, with an average of 96 degrees. In Iran, cities like Mashhad and Izmir have the temperatures averaged out to 88 degrees. Lastly, Saudi Arabia, being the hottest of the four, got 99 degrees today in the capital of Riyadh, and on the west part of the country, in Mecca more precisely, temperatures reached 104 degrees Fahrenheit. As always, please try to avoid sun exposure tomorrow. If possible, drink plenty of fluids if you are going to be outside. I am Brittany Nunez, and this has been your weather report for today. We will be right back after this commercial break.
Being one of the fastest growing airlines and operating one of the youngest fleets in the world, Qatar Airways is the airline for you. Qatar Airways travels from 146 destinations all around the world, extending from the United States of America all the way to Asia, linking over 140 international destinations across Africa, Central Asia, Europe, South Asia, Middle East, North America, and South America, using a fleet of over 100 aircrafts to get you to your destination. Qatar Airways' main global partner is FC Barcelona Soccer Club, the current soccer champions of Spain and one of the top-ranked soccer teams in the world. You can feel comfortable throughout the whole flight with our innovative seats and amazing features. You also have a variety of delicious foods to choose from and a concession stand you can access. We are Qatar Airways and we want you to fly like a champion. Fly with Qatar Airways today.
Welcome back to MBCSN News. National security is an aspect that should be taken seriously into account in some of the countries of the Middle East.
In Iraq, there's a new terrorist group that developed not too long ago. The group goes by the acronym of ISIS, which is believed to stand for Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. They came about when Al-Qaeda's leader, Osama bin Laden, was executed, and they emerged being the second strongest terrorist group at that time. But now they're on top of that list.
That's right, Melanie. ISIS is acquiring about 1,000 foreign troops per month, which is making the United States officials believe that they are becoming a worldwide threat. They run on the basis of their type of Islamic thinking. They will murder anyone who does not follow their beliefs. A good example to go along with this would be the group of American journalists who were beheaded on camera for the United States to witness. Iraq is slowly expanding as they just took over Ramadi, a city in Iraq, killing over 500 civilians to be able to conquer the whole land.
I think ISIS's actions propose the most controversial question that is being asked in the United States right at this moment. Should the United States deploy ground troops to fight ISIS, or should they hold off and wait for ISIS to make their next move?
Well, it's not that simple. Iraq's national security is at risk because of ISIS taking control of the cities in the country. The terrorist group isn't just managing to do this all by themselves. They are on the verge of teaming up with Nigeria's Boko Haram, which is also an Islamic terrorist group that is trying to rebel and overthrow the government and create an Islamic State very similar to those of ISIS.
There's no doubt that ISIS is a major influence all around the world. There are thousands of Twitter accounts linked back to the organization and followed by thousands on social media. During the past year, at least 53 Americans have been charged with trying to travel to Syria to join ranks with ISIS. But there are many others living in the United States who may be consuming the online poison that ISIS is inflicting on us.
They are a major threat that most of the world strongly believes that they should be taken care of as soon as possible. I think our government has to sit down and have a serious talk about the next steps needed to take.
I agree. Moving on, we have the traffic report with Brittany Nunez. Hello again, Brittany.
Thanks, Melanie. In Saudi Arabia, many people in the city of Jeddah blame faltering road projects and hold the government responsible for not monitoring the implementation of these projects. The traffic that occurs in Jeddah is considered nightmarish. Right now, we have 7 different accidents on the main road of Jeddah due to a major crash that blocked 2 lanes and created a nightmare for the local police. Outside of Jeddah, as you can see, the roads are clear, but for you out there, please be aware that a lot of drivers are making illegal turns trying to find shortcuts to get to their destination faster. You have to be careful. Moving on to the city of Medina. Some roads have been closed due to a construction that lead to a long line of cars and hours of waiting. That's all for traffic at the moment. Now back to you guys.
Thank you, Brittany. The politics and the economy of a country is considered the stepping stone for globalization. So that's why it's significant to have a well-structured economy and moral government.
Jordan could be a promising experiment with economic and political reform in a relatively stable environment and a model for reform in Arab transition countries. Jordan's political economy has changed profoundly in the past 20 years, exerting pressure on the foundations of regime stability. The state is seen as retrieving from many citizens' economic lives, sprinkling its circle of privilege and patronage, and leaving the population to find itself in a dysfunctional economy. Add to this the demands of a growing Syrian refugee population that also threatens the monarchy's stability and alienates its traditional power base. Jordan's institutions are reimagining its relationship with its citizens despite the associated political risks.
The central conclusion is that economic change has undermined Jordan's old-school contract to ensure its long-term survival. In a new economy, the monarchy must build a state of laws and citizens that extends meaningful political and economic participation to its historical social base. Itani warns that if Jordan does not tackle this issue head-on, it runs the risk of serious civil unrest in the future. While Jordanians are focused on mounting pressures from Syrian refugees and the growing crisis in Egypt, the same kind of political, economic, and social grievances that sparked a wave of uprisings in the Arab world are intensifying in Jordan with each passing day.
With the youth representing 55% of the population and young Jordanians struggling to land decent jobs and meet basic needs, policymakers should be aware that youth discontent could erupt in unexpected or critical moments of pressure. The failure of an elected Islamist government in Egypt and the continuing violence in Syria have brought Jordan's king, Abdullah II, some significant breathing room. Thus, political reform is unlikely to take center stage in the coming months. While street protests and demonstrations have weakened since their peak in November 2012, the underlying political grievances and economic pressures continue to intensify in Jordan, and reform cannot be deferred indefinitely.
It's a very interesting subject, Nelson, but we have to do a short commercial break.
All right, please stay tuned. We'll be back in a bit with more MBCSN news.
Do you want to taste the most popular meal of the Yemen and Saudi Arabia cuisine? You should try the amazing Ful Mudamas. Ful Mudamas are the best beans in the business of the Middle East. With only 90 calories per serving and 0 grams of trans fat and total fat, these are the tastiest beans you will ever have. Make a huge variety of foods with these beans. Mix them with eggs, tomato, and all other kinds of delicacies. Don't forget to stop by your local Sajaf right now to get yourself some Ful Mudamas and have a tasty meal tonight. Bon appetit.
Welcome back again to MBCSN News. Let's talk about culture. In Iran, having children is regarded as a blessing and a very important life task to be accomplished by married couples. All major religions in this area recommend having children because it is far more praiseworthy than not having any at all.
That's very interesting, Melanie, because in other parts of the world, they don't imply that sort of pressure on one. Did you know that childless marriages are a source of concern for both parents, but especially the women?
Yeah, you are right. The Iranian culture considers the birth of a child a ritual that begins with the pregnancy itself. The ritual involves efforts to make sure the baby is a male. That's because the firstborn sons are particularly desired.
For Iranians, marriage is a significant event that must be celebrated with glory and distinction. It's the most conspicuous of all occasions and is welcomed with a large congregation of friends and relatives. Today, most of modern Iranians follow the European dress code and style, while various nomadic and ethnic groups follow their own traditions and colors.
Right now, we have Caroline live from the scene at an Iranian wedding, and she's going to tell us more about the typical Iranian wedding and what it's like. Caroline, are you there?
Yeah guys, I'm here at what you would call a traditional Iranian wedding. As you can see around me, the color that is basically visible would be white. That's because the color white in events like these symbolizes purity, innocence, and faithfulness. During the wedding, the couple gets engaged in a reasonably lavish party. Rings are exchanged. Curiously, the engagement rings are simple and contain mainly gold and no stones. But the wedding ring that is presented to the bride must be very expensive and has precious stones on it. The ceremony is definitely remarkable for the bride and the groom considering all that is done, and also it is important for the Iranians and the culture that they follow. That's all from here. Now back to you guys.
Thank you, Caroline, for the report on the wedding and culture of the people of Iran.
The way people do things is different all around the world, and it's great to be able to learn how other countries practice their culture.
Well, speaking about the world, Melanie, did you know that soccer is the most popular sport played in the world and especially in the Middle East?
I had no idea.
Well, countries like Iran, Iraq, and Jordan all have professional soccer teams that participate competitions and hope to one day qualify to the FIFA World Cup that happens every 4 years. The World Cup came around last year in 2014, and of the 32 qualifying teams in the world, Iran happened to be one of them that made it and got a chance to contend with the highest ranked teams all around the world. During the Iran's visit in Brazil for the World Cup, they were a part of Group F, which was comprised of Argentina, Bosnia, and Nigeria. Unfortunately, Iran wasn't able to get past the group stages, summing up only 1 point from the 3 games they played.
I think it's great that a country with so much conflict is still able to contribute in such a unifying event that brings the world together.
I couldn't agree more.
Sadly, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for tuning in. We wish you a very happy weekend. I'm Melanie Tessier.
And I'm Nelson Ribe, and this was MBCSN News.